Our guest today is the Chief Executive Officer of the Chicago Housing Authority. He directs all aspects of the third largest housing authority in the country. He is a former resident of the CHA's Rockwell Gardens. Prior to his current position, he served as Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Rockford and then of Cook County. Our guest today earned his bachelor's degree from Fisk University. He and his wife, Paulette, have two beautiful children, Louis A. Jordan III and their daughter, Dana. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the City Club of Chicago, Louis Jordan. Louis? All right. Have fun up here.
So good afternoon. Good afternoon. All righty, thank you. It's always a pleasure to come back here to the City Club to not only share the good things that we're all doing, and I say we in the plural because you're all very much a part of the success that the Chicago Housing Authority is experiencing. But more importantly, it's always good to come back so that I can say thank you. You know, thank you for the partnerships, thank you for the collaborations, thank you for those things that you're doing to make the lives of those who live in public housing here in Chicago that much better. Jay, I want to thank you for that warm introduction, and my Chief Operating Officer, Chris Warren, I want to remind you that you're still on the team, okay? Also wanted to acknowledge the head table. You know, one of the great things about sitting at such a head table, not only are there people who are interested in the work that I'm doing, but there are people who are doing such interesting work that I can learn from. So again, let's give the head table a round of applause. To our elected officials in the room, I see Alderman Burnett. Is there another alderman or any other elected officials? Okay, well, Alderman Burnett, thanks for coming out, and actually we'll hear a little bit from the alderman a little later. To our local partners at HUD, Steve Meese. Steve's in the room from the local HUD office. Danielle Bastar, if I said that correctly, from HUD in Washington, D.C. Danielle and her team are in town to look at possibly doing a regional voucher initiative, and we've been working with partners like the Metropolitan Planning Commission and others to really regionalize some of the work we're doing. So Danielle, welcome, and thanks for being here. I also wanted to just take a moment, you know, Jay mentioned Doug Scott at the Illinois EPA. Maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I was invited to a breakfast at a place called Mary's Market in State Street, and this very ambitious young man said, Louis, I'm going to run for mayor, and when I win, I want you to come and join my team. And the rest is history. Doug, thank you so much. Yeah. You know, a lot of the work that I oftentimes get the credit for, if you will, couldn't be done without an outstanding Board of Commissioners. And I want to acknowledge my Board of Commissioners. Dr. Mildred Harris is here. And as I walked in the door, Dr. Harris said, you'll do much better if you look much better. So she gave me this beautiful boutonniere. So thank you, Dr. Harris. Okay. We have Commissioner Michael Ivers. Commissioner Carlos Ponce. Commissioner Sandra Young. And in their absence, Commissioner Bridget Reedy, Amy Haley, Devere Beverly, and our board chairman, Mr. Jim Reynolds. I thank you all. And again, I'll say this over and over again, but I have one of, if not the most incredible staff of employees that anyone could ask for, led by my Chief Operating Officer, Chris Warren, CHA staff. Thank you so much. So this is a particularly important time in the history of the Chicago Housing Authority. If you've been paying attention to the media, just a little more than a month ago, we closed down Cabrini Green, which is the last of the infamous high-rises here in Chicago. Thank you. And while Cabrini received the attention for its closing, if you just think about it, over the last couple years, LeClaire Courts, Ickes, Wells Extension, we've closed all of these buildings, to offer better housing options for those individuals who live in public housing, but equally as important, to send a signal to the overall community that redevelopment was on the horizon. You know, as we look at prospective homeowners who are coming or looking to move into our mixed income developments and or surrounding areas, you know, we wanted to make sure that we said to those individuals, as well as the overall community, the CHA is embarking on moving in a new direction, making all of our communities that we're investors in vibrant and exciting. And so we're excited about the opportunity for, first of all, to provide better housing stock for those individuals as they choose different housing options. But equally as important, we want to make sure that the communities that we're investing in feel and see that investment. So we're going to spend some time today really just talking a little bit about where we've been, where we are today, but more importantly, we're going to talk about where we're going in the future. And as you've been a significant part in our past and in our present, we want you to get yourselves ready to help us as we move into the next phase of this process that our great mayor of the city is calling the Plan for Transformation. So I'm going to step aside for a moment. We're going to show a short video that really looks at the work that we've done thus far, and I'll be right back.
It's a story you could tell with the numbers alone, and it would be impressive. 14,000 obsolete units of housing demolished. 18,000 family and senior apartments rehabbed or replaced. 8 new developments where 7,000 families of every income now live. 13,000 CHA families moved to homes of their choice. But that would not be the whole story. For at its root, the success of the Plan for Transformation is not about numbers, but about people. Those who believe that things could be better and work to make it so.
When Mayor Daley came to me about the idea of a transformation of public housing, it was challenging for me because I live in the community. And actually, my mom was still living over there. And so I had to go to my mother and I asked my mom, I'm like, Mom, they want to transform the area. What do you think? And my mom said, Walter, it can't be any worse than what it is right now. And so with that, I went and I told the mayor, okay, I'll sign on to it, but I want to make sure of a couple of things. One, I want to make sure that people that live here have the opportunity to come back and stay. 2, I want to make sure that people from the community get job opportunities.
The Plan for Transformation rested on 4 key goals. The first, better housing for the residents. The second, replacement of isolated projects by new mixed-income communities integrated into the fabric of the city. The third, revitalization of communities that had languished too long in the shadow of high-rises. And fourth, connecting people to opportunities.
With new homes, new work requirements for able tenants, extensive job training, and social services, income from work has doubled from an average of $10,000 in 1999 to nearly $20,000 in 2010.
When CHA offered me this opportunity, I was very happy. A lot of people kept denying turning apartments down, and I kept saying, well, I want one, give me one. I'm not gonna turn it down. I never had anything like this before, like a brand new apartment, nice area, so my expectations was very high.
The Plan for Transformation offered us guidelines and opportunity to have a successful business. So the Chicago Housing Authority as an entire entity actually acted as my mentor to springboard me to where I am today.
As important, neighborhoods around the new developments have thrived, with new investment, residents, stores, amenities, and jobs outpacing residential and commercial growth in the rest of the city.
People were used to hearing a lot of conversation about what was going to be done. And then when they saw it actually done and people moved into it, people began to believe there was really going to be a transformation. And that gave rise to investments by business, investments by the City of Chicago, library, police department, the James Jordan Boys and Girls Club, and finally Walgreens came in And once some good things started to happen, it began to accelerate, and it continued to accelerate to this very day.
The surrounding communities in the Cabrini Green area, the property value has gone up tremendously. So many people have moved to the community, and with all of the new numbers coming in as far as the demographics, we've been able to holistically get a lot of other things. We got Dominic's, we got Starbucks, you know, we have so many other things, new libraries, new parks, you know, so many other great things in that community, and the same thing over in the Henry Horner area. And with those things came jobs. People from Cabrini Green built the Dominic's, built the schools, built the buildings. And guess what? People from Cabrini work in the Dominic's. They work in all of the entities in the area. You get everyone's property values go up. All of the people who lived there initially get better housing, job opportunities. If you invest in a low-income community, it benefits everyone.
Buildings renewed or replaced. Residents no longer isolated or defined by how they pay their rent. Neighborhoods strengthened. Still a work in progress, a living blueprint for change. Today, the plan has yielded demonstrable transformation of buildings, neighborhoods, and lives. While more remains to be done, the accomplishments of the past give us confidence. With the guidance and wisdom of the past, we are ready to take on the future.
It's been through that creativity and it's just demonstrated flexibility that's helped us get this far. But again, it's been a big part of a partnership. You know, we've gone from lawsuits, demonstrations. Who would have ever thought as we started this process of planning that we would have been hit by the toughest economic times that any of us all seen. But thus, we still move forward. And, you know, we've hit places in the economy where our developer partners, you know, are having difficulty with developing. From a banking perspective, our potential buyers are having difficulty getting loans. And so there are a number of obstacles that we've had to overcome, and we still continue to do that. Again, I want to thank our board, CHA staff, resident leaders. For those of you who were around when this plan started, there was some question around trust. Are you really going to build new homes for us? After you've allowed us to live in these conditions for so many years? And the answer was yes. We're going to build new homes. You're going to be a part of that process. And collectively, we're going to create a better environment for you and your families to live. And so in doing so, a lot of what needed to be done was gaining credibility from a CHA perspective, and we reached out to the business community, we reached out to the philanthropic community, and other civic leaders to help us craft this plan that's moved forward. And I keep saying us and we, because the plan for transformation is not owned by the Chicago Housing Authority, it's facilitated by the Chicago Housing Authority. The plan belongs to all of us. It belongs to the city of Chicago and all of our efforts to make sure that we're providing quality housing in every neighborhood in this city. So now we're at a place where we're almost there. You know, almost at the end of the road. As mentioned in the video, we're 5,000 units shy of completion. But as we look at market conditions, we now have to show even more creativity and flexibility. The goals haven't changed at all. It's to provide quality housing, to ensure that housing built in new mixed-income communities integrate into the fabric of the city, to connect residents to opportunity, and to ensure that new and renovated housing is an asset to the surrounding neighborhoods, stimulating investment and bringing the resources and amenities to communities needed in order to thrive. And that's what we're looking to do. And so as we look at these changing conditions, you know, if you go back to our original plan, if you will, the original tactics said we were going to do two things. We're going to rehab CHA existing housing stock, which included 41 senior buildings, over 2,600 scattered site homes, and apartments across the city, and large family developments such as Wentworth Gardens, Dearborn Homes, and Altgeld Gardens. We also said that we would build new mixed-income communities on the footprint of former high-rise developments, with about 1/3 of the homes being set aside for public housing, another third being set aside for modest median income individuals, and the third market rate. And thus far, that plan those tactics have gotten us to a pretty good place. Again, 81% of the total development process has been completed. But then we're hit with this change in the market. We're hit with the notion of developers, again, having difficulty, with development of the sites, and equally as important, wanting to make sure that as we build market rate homes and public housing homes side by side, that we didn't want one segment to outpace the other. That was very important. And so in looking at that, in addition to the notion that as we've relocated our families, we found that families have a strong desire to not only come back to the initial community, but also move in other communities. And so in an effort to address these concerns, we've introduced something called the Property Investment Initiative. And what this initiative looks at is our ability to go out and make purchases of single-family homes, multi-unit homes within the broader community to give families an option of other housing choices. But at the same time, to address the issues with the economy, it gives us an opportunity to buy homes in neighborhoods throughout the city that are sitting vacant, that have fallen into foreclosure, that have the potential of threatening the viability and the strength of the community. And so using a tactic of purchasing those homes and partnering in that community to put those homes back on the tax roll, get strong families in those homes that will be an integral part of the goodness in that community, we think adds a tremendous amount of value. Also gives us the opportunity to continue to move forward with the plan. Currently, we've purchased 16 such homes in various communities, and we're very, very strategic in making sure that we're not isolating or concentrating families within the same historical communities. And let me be very clear, the expectations of performance of these families are extremely high. We want to blend. We want to make sure that we are a part of the community, not that house on the block that doesn't have the snow shoveled in the winter or the grass cut in the summer, but an integral part of the overall success of the group. And so we're very excited about that. Over the next couple years, we anticipate purchasing somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 such properties, again, to not only help to revitalize these communities where these properties exist, but more importantly, to offer a better housing choice for our families who need it. The second strategy is somewhat related, and we're calling that strategy the property rental assistance program. This is a strategy where we use our project-based voucher as a tool to connect with developers and landlords around the city to ensure that there's a portion of their property, their rental property, that has a component that offers housing for low-income individuals. And one of the key focuses, if you will, to this process is that contracts between the housing authority and that developer can range anywhere from 5 to 30 years. And just imagine being a developer and you're going to the bank looking for financing, and you can speak to the notion of having a 30-year contract with the Chicago Housing Authority as a means of ensuring that that's ongoing rent that you have on that development. Again, it also gives opportunity to allow an additional housing choice for our families. So we're very, very excited about the fact of contributing to the community as we look to clear up vacant properties, contributing to the economy as we look to infuse capital and dollars into some of those neighborhoods and or individual developers who may have been struggling, if you will, because of the tough economy. But it's also very important that as we provide the housing options to our families, that we continue to partner to make sure that other necessary entities and infrastructure comes into the community. We want to make sure that we continue to have good schools, good parks, community centers, jobs, and stores and recreations that transform space into destination points. As you all know, in building strong communities, it starts with a good housing model, but it continues with safe streets, good schools, a strong commitment to the community. And we want to continue to be a partner as it relates to building these strong communities. I also wanted to just spend a few moments talking about something that oftentimes, as I've been invited, we don't spend a lot of time talking on, and I think from an overall perspective, while it's front of mind, we just don't seem to acknowledge it. And it's the economic engine that this plan for transformation has driven over the years. When you look at the monies that have been developed and generated from the work, I'll share a few statistics with you. CHA contracts out nearly half of our $1 billion annual budget to companies creating thousands of jobs in the region. So $500 million a year we put out in contracts for goods and services, which result in jobs and opportunities for individuals. In 2010 alone, this created 554 new jobs, with almost 300 of those jobs going to CHA residents or low-income workers. And through the $209 million stimulus dollars that was received by CHA, we were able to retain or create 342 jobs. Since the beginning of the plan, every dollar CHA has received, since the beginning of the plan, every dollar that we've received, we've leveraged $3 in public or private investment. And we're also leveraging our buying power to build up community and startup businesses by requiring contractors and vendors to do business with minority and women-owned businesses. And we're proud to report that we have a 52% participation rate among minority and women-owned businesses. And that's a pretty good economic indicator, regardless of what the current economic conditions are. Beyond CHA's contracts, we're very proud to report that since the Partnership for New Communities Opportunity Chicago program started in 2006, and that was a program that talked about putting people to work. This program helped to develop over 5,000 residents, over 5,000 residents find jobs. These are people who went to work for the first time, made money, paid taxes, bought goods and services in our city, and again, contributed to the overall success of the city. And we've said it before, and I'll say it again, we do more than just bricks and mortar. Now, as we move forward, we look at other ways in which we, again, continue to stimulate the city. Many of you may be aware of our Housing Choice Voucher program, or commonly known as the Section 8 program. Well, did you know Chicago Housing Authority pays out over $27 million a month to landlords in the city of Chicago? $27 million per month. That's $500 million a year that we pay out to landlords, again, causing that engine of economic development to grow. And so we're very excited about being that kind of partner. We still have very high expectations as we move forward to continue to partner with individuals, but it needs to be acknowledged that there is an economic factor, and if I had more time, I'd talk about the economic multiplier. For those economists in the room, we talk about how every time you spend $1 in a community, the community goes over and over again, but it's important that we're seen as a part of that engine. So as we get closer to the end, there's some realities that we still need to deal with. And through your partnership, I'm confident that we'll move forward. One of the bigger challenges as we go forward is ways in which we can help our current residents take advantage of the opportunities that are put before them so that they can move further towards self-sufficiency, but equally as important, so that their children can move towards self-sufficiency. You know, we have a decade of work that we've done, and we've done quite a bit. You know, when we started this plan, we had almost 42% of our households, almost 42% of our head of households work today. When we started the plan, only 15% of them worked. The average income of a head of household in CHA back in 1999 was $9,000. Today, that average income is $20,000. While that's a significant move, it still really isn't enough. Just imagine a single mom with 3 or 4 kids living on an annual income of $20,000. There's still so much yet to be done. And although we're very proud that we've gone from 15% up to 42%, it still suggests that over half of our head of households are not working. And so there's work to be done in making sure that we can move that needle. And we know that these are some of the tougher economic times that we're facing. And one would say, Lewis, why now? Well, if not now, when? You know, there's a tough job market out there, but there's also a tremendous opportunity for folks to self-develop, better educate, job training, things of that nature. And it's so important that we help this generation plan for the success of future generations. And we strongly believe that while we make strong attempts to help everyone move towards self-sufficiency, everyone may not. There's a tremendous amount of barriers that our families face, you know, mental issues, physical issues, issues of despair and loss of hope, but collectively, as we've done thus far, we can continue to help them as they move towards finding a place of self-sufficiency. And for those who just may not be able to overcome some of those obstacles, we still think that there should be a strong expectation that if they cannot work, that, again, they can attend training classes, they can go to community college, which, by the way, if you live in Chicago Housing Authority today, you can attend free of charge. They can volunteer in the community. They can ensure that their children are getting up and going to school and prepared every single day. They can make sure that the needs of health care and other pertinent needs that cause us to perform well are all taken care of. And I must reiterate, we know that these times are tough, but at the same time, we're faced with an inordinate amount of our residents who tend to need to be a little bit more motivated to take that first step into looking at ways in which some of these issues can be attained. And frankly, for the price of a very well built, very well maintained unit in a very nice neighborhood, we think it's the least that can be done. But knowing that it's tough, so I want to be very clear that, you know, we have situations where people in some cases have never worked. But just as we put our arms around folks in the beginning of the plan and said, here's what we're going to do, we're going to move forward, we're going to remove you from this isolation and help bring you into the mainstream of our city, just as we put our arms around that resident population then, we definitely need to put our arms around them today. Because one of the wishes, if you will, one of the measurements that I hope that this team is measured by is our ability to create an additional housing option for that child in public housing today. When he or she turns 18 years old, which is leaseholder age, I want them to have another option other than saying, I want to move in a unit down the hall from my mom. And we believe that it can happen. We think and we've seen those options can look like a number of different things. Those options can look like going to college. Over the holidays, we were fortunate to host CHA students who were in college anywhere from Harold Washington here in Chicago to Yale. And we're pleased to report over 1,000 of our students who live in public housing today are enrolled in some college here in the United States. And as I acknowledge them, we had a couple hundred who were able to come in for a reception that staff and I held. We acknowledged them for being in college and for doing a good job, but we also challenged them on their efforts to finish college, to come home and not only get a good job, inspire, encourage, tell folks that have never been off the block that, this is not a bad thing. Yeah, I was afraid. I was a little nervous, didn't know what to expect, but we're doing well. Because as each one of them will teach another, it gives us an opportunity to, again, meet some of the goals that we've talked about. So again, we're at a point where we're looking to finish this. 2015 is our goal. 25,000 units of public housing, either rehab, developed, or with the new strategy of purchase through the Property Investment Initiative, or partnering with the Property Rental Assistance. We're getting there. But most importantly, with the plan, it's about the ability to save and develop human capital. And we feel very, very strongly about those efforts. We also feel very strongly about the partnerships that have taken us this far. And for those of you who've been a part of it, from the bottom of my heart, I say thank you so much. For those who are curious as to what can you do, there's tons that you can do. From the business community, you can continue to help to employ, folks who come to you and look for opportunities. From the education community, we can continue to partner to make sure that we have strong schools in our neighborhood that attract any and all citizens who choose to study in those endeavors. From the philanthropic community, continue to believe that your dollars and donations that have gone towards supporting this work are being spent well. From my board, my staff, those who work with me on a daily basis, continue to push and encourage us to step out of the envelope so that we can, in fact, create opportunities well beyond those that we've done so far. I'm in the process of reading a book. It's called Whatever It Takes by a gentleman, Paul Tuff. I think Paul is a writer for the New York Times. And the book is about Jeffrey Canada and the Harlem Children's Zone. And I'm reading, and I get to a place where Jeffrey Canada talks about his lottery process. And he says, in order to get in this Harlem Children's Zone school, it's by lottery. And he sits in a room, I'm assuming as full as this, and he calls out names. And the parent who's selected, or child selected, you can imagine, there's a jump up, the screaming, the shouting. But Mr. Canada said while he focused on those individuals that got in via lottery, he was also, disheartened by the looks on the faces of those who didn't get in. And as we talk about this process of transforming communities, we need to resolve that having some people removed from poverty, having some people go away to college, having some people get a job isn't quite enough. Our efforts need to be, and it's a lofty and wild vision, but our efforts need to be that we can work to move as many people that are as willing, knowingly, or willing with a little nudge as we possibly can out of this ugly, awful state of being called poverty. Thank you very much.
If you have questions, we have a few minutes for questions. Ginny's over there, Catherine's over there. Raise your hand. We have a lengthy question to start off with from Alderman Norteris. No reason to start off easy. I represented Cabrini Green for 20 years, was in Henry Cisneros' office with Jesse White. He advised us the feds were abandoning public housing. What does Housing Authority expect to do with the property? Why not auction it off now and put it back on the tax rolls? Is there an advantage in waiting now?
Well, thank you for that question, Alderman. You know, Cabrini, as with some of our other large former public housing sites, are in a state of redevelopment. You know, the current model is that of a third public housing, a third affordable housing, and a third market rate. And it is, in fact, still on the tax roll, if you will, as you look at the market rate families that are there. And so, again, in these tough economic times, we move forward. You know, we'll look to, you know, maneuver with our tactics, but the intent of providing mixed income communities, particularly in that area, remains the same.
Got to start putting a limit on the length of questions here. This one's from board member Ed Mazer. Mr. Jordan, how do you and CHA respond to the belief among many that the destruction of Cabrini and other high-rise public housing developments has moved less than desirables and many gangbangers into middle-class and stable areas with a resulting increase in violent crime, drug usage, etc.?
You know, we hear that type issue a lot. And one of the things that we know is that people who are doing those things that were mentioned, drugs, crime, illegal activity, tend to want to position themselves in places where there's disinvestment. And let's be clear, you know, because I sell drugs on a corner, it doesn't mean I live in the house upstairs. And one of the things that we've strategically done, and very proud of it, we've freed our families of having to live in conditions where children can't go outside and play because of gunfire and drug activity, you know, where mothers and daughters aren't safe to walk the walkway because of, again, this activity. But there's no statistical evidence to prove that these individuals live in those communities in which they're perpetrating these crimes. So as we've rescued our families and given them an opportunity to live other places around the area, you know, the notion of isolated crime in housing has potentially moved away from that original site. But we don't believe that those incidences are directly tied to our families. And we don't believe it so strongly that we've actually commissioned a third party to do a crime study here in the city of Chicago, you know, looking at how and where crime is moved and if there is in fact a relationship between that crime and not people who visit CHA, hang around CHA, but actually to see if there's any correlation between people who live in public housing and those crimes.
Last question, and Ginny, wherever you, excuse me. Last question from Rachel Rachel Goodstein. We only asked one question, Rachel, but we'll ask the long one so you be in with the trend. With the real estate, this will take a while, Mr. Jordan. With the real estate market still in shambles, how can the CHA continue its market role strategy, particularly at the historic Northside Lathrop homes, which are adjacent to unsold privately developed houses and condos? Why not just rehab using tax credits?
Again, thank you for that question. We're a victim of this real estate market, just like everyone else. And we also feel that being a victim, that doesn't preclude us from moving forward with a very sound product in very good communities. We have strategies that we're implementing to help attract and retain good market rate buyers. One of those is something we call Find Your Place in Chicago, where we'll give down payment assistance, a gift, to market rate buyers who are looking to purchase in our developments around the city. We started this program a little more than 2 years ago with a $10,000 down payment, if you will, or $10,000 gift. Working with our development partners, we've realized that if we're going to compete with other properties in the city, we need to do a little more. So in some incidences, up to $30,000 towards down payment assistance will be given for those families who choose to buy in market rate communities. As it relates to Lathrop, Lathrop is our next major redevelopment. We're working with a working group, and that working group consists of staff, a development team that was recently approved by the board, the local aldermen, and equally important, residents from that community. And they will come up with the proper recommendation for the economic mix of housing in that community. But as with other developments that we've worked towards, we're very optimistic that when we're done, that Lathrop will be a much stronger community partner in that area.
How about a big round of applause for Mr. Jordan?